record this and send it out so that you'll be able to access it later in case you missed something. Welcome to the growers meeting. Oh, this is not the right one. Okay, welcome to the growers meeting. I am Stephanie Clift, and along with Teresa Garretson, we will be your hosts for this meeting. If you have any questions, please save them to the end and we will be happy to answer them. Here at Washington County Master Gardeners, we at the Washington County Association Master Gardeners Grow1Give1 project, our mission is to help place free vegetable starts into the hands of limited income individuals and families in Washington County. 2025 marks our 4th year, and I'm delighted to have been a part of this project since the beginning. We are here to make you a success. Be you a brand new gardener or an experienced grower, or somewhere in between, there is always something to learn. Welcome back to our many returning growers, and a big welcome to our new to us growers. This year we have 7 giveaway events: Forest Grove, Cornelius, Hillsborough, Aloha, Cedar Hills, and 2 in Tigard. Last year we gave away over 870 plants, and this year with your help, we hope to give away over 1,000 plants. Growing seeds is not an exact science, much as we wish it was otherwise. We can only control so much. Though we wish we could control everything, we control what we can and we do our best to roll with the rest. To improve upon last year, this year we have new seeds that are from 2025. No free seeds, no donated seeds, only seeds from reputable sources. Start dates are always subject to plant varieties and when we need the plants. Every grower's experience is going to be varied because every grower's environment is different, much like a microclimate, and we are here to help you with your personal microclimate. Now I'm going to turn it over to Teresa.
Hello, everyone. All right, so what you see here, these are the varieties of tomatoes and peppers we chose for the year. We got 3 of each. The cherry tomato variety, we chose an Oregon cherry. It was it's called the Oregon cherry. It was released from Oregon State University. These are really compact plants. They produce really early, especially even for a cherry tomato. As we know, they're some of our earlier fruiting cherry varieties. For our Roma or paste tomato, we are going to try out a determinate variety of the San Marzano. This is an heirloom variety. Most of you probably know and have heard of this, grown it yourself. It's made a name for itself. It's about a 200-year-old heirloom. So we are hoping to have success with the determinate version of this paste tomato. We're going to go with the same slicer variety we used last year. This is called the Siletz. It was also bred at Oregon State University. It's been a very successful determinate slicer variety that a lot of us have grown. For our pepper varieties, we're going to expand a little bit. We experienced requests for hotter peppers. So we're going to introduce a Thai pepper and a habanero pepper. Both of these varieties, they are known to produce an incredible amount of fruit on really compact plants. So we're hoping that not only you, our growers, but those who receive these plants find success with them. Our jalapeno variety, we're going to switch over and try a new one this year. It's called the La Bamba. Some of you probably have experience growing it. It's a little bit bigger plant, lots of fruit, but that fruit is also a little bit bigger as well. Next slide, please. This is more information about each of these pepper and tomato varieties. You're going to receive a copy of these slides, so this information is going to be available to you again for more review and reference. Next slide. So I'm going to talk about planting dates a little bit. I'm going to start with our habanero pepper variety. These plants, they want to be really warm, and they take a little bit longer to grow and for that fruit to mature, about 90 to 100 days actually before fruit is mature and ripe and ready to go. So if you are going to grow habanero pepper starts for us, please use a heat mat and please store these plants in an environment that is above 65 degrees. They take longer to grow, they need more time to mature. So with that, we need you to start those seeds by next weekend or no later than February 17th. Earlier, the better. For our other pepper varieties, if you are using a heat mat, you can wait until the last week in February to get those seeds planted. If you don't have a heating mat, see, we're moving slides here a little. Don't have a heating mat, please plant by mid-month. Give those pepper plants enough time to grow. Can you move on to the next slide? There we go. That's the slide we're looking for. Thank you. You can wait until mid-February or so to plant those other varieties. Between the 14th and 21st is kind of what we're eyeing. For tomato varieties, once tomato plants get going, they grow really, really fast. So we suggest starting them a week or two into March if you are not using a heating mat. If you are using a heating mat or a controlled temperature greenhouse, anything like that, we suggest starting them even later. Please, please wait until later in March to start them. That is because that greenhouse effect, it's going to help those plants grow faster, bigger, and stronger. You know, a heating pad, from my perspective and my experiences, they aren't as necessary for tomatoes because once they get going, they grow really fast. And so it's just less of a variable than it is for your pepper plants. So I wouldn't worry too much about not having a heating pad for tomatoes. If you do have it, then you can wait a little bit extra time. I'm going to talk about temperature more in a minute. Can you move slides, please? Thank you. All right, so soil. Seed starting mix or seedling mix, we often use this for germinating our seeds because it is sterile. There's less risk of damping off that's caused by wonderful soil fungus that our more mature and stronger plants love to have in the soil, but for seedlings, it can cause damping off. But seedling mix also lacks nutrients. So if you do start your seeds in seedling mix, please make sure you pot those seedlings up after they get their first set of true leaves. Get them into potting mix that has more nutrients. If you are starting seeds in potting mix, which, you know what, I do this every year, there is a higher risk of damping off, but people do this all the time and they don't have any issues. We're going to leave the decision to you for whether you want to start in seedling mix or whether you want to just start right in potting mix. But what we do ask you to do is that you use sterilized pots and you do not use used or recycled potting mix, and avoid using soil from your yard or garden. There's a lot of soil organisms and insects that live in used soils or soil from our gardens. And although these insects and organisms, they're really helpful for older and mature plants, it isn't anything we want our seedlings to be exposed to just yet while they're young and vulnerable. So, and you don't want soil critters in your house. So if you're growing in your home. On top of all that, the ratio of nutrients in used soil and our soils in our gardens, this is unknown without it getting tested. Whereas potting soil that you buy fresh at a supplier, the nutrients in that soil is going to be ready to go and it's going to be immediately available. We don't necessarily know exactly what it is, but it's known to be the right ratio for our plants. Go ahead, next slide, please. All right, so temperatures for germination. I talked a little bit about heating pads, but I didn't talk about temperatures. Plant seeds, they all have different preferences in terms of soil temperature for germination. Tomatoes and peppers, they aren't too far off from each other, but the differences can matter in terms of how fast those seeds germinate. Pepper seeds, they want warm soil, 75 to 85, even upwards of 90 degrees sometimes. And that heating pad, it's going to provide that ideal soil temperature, and it's going to help your seeds germinate 2 to 3 times faster than if you're not using a heating pad. Tomato seeds, they want 70 to 80 degrees soil. The heating pad, I talked about this a little bit earlier, the heating pad provides a warmer soil environment, but it's less critical for tomatoes, and it's simply due to the 5 to 10 degree degree preference that those seeds have. If the soil for tomato seeds is less than 65 degrees. You may struggle a little bit to get those seeds to germinate in a timely manner. So give it a little bit extra time. If your environment is on the cooler side in general, maybe consider a heating pad. If your environment is 60 degrees or below, your seeds are going to struggle to germinate at all. So we'll certainly need to identify a way to help your soil be warm enough, whether you're using a heating pad or not, to make sure those seeds germinate and get going. After germination, you're going to make sure you remove any heating pad if you are using it, remove it or turn it off. And that is because once seeds germinate, they don't want the soil to be nearly as warm as it was, and the plants will try and escape their pots and get tall and leggy if it is too warm of an environment. So, all right, next slide. Actually, Stephanie's going to talk about soil temperatures and the impact on germination.
Yeah, like Teresa said about germination, the needs are for our specific varieties. So let's take a moment and step back. And why is heat at germination, why does it matter so much? So just a few degrees one way or the other can make such a difference in germination rates. So Teresa talked about the 70 to 80 degree ideal for tomatoes and the 75 to 85 degree ideal for peppers. And if you look back in the chart, habaneros actually like it as warm as 90 degrees. So they're a hot guy. So both in temperature and apparently in their soil germination. So if we look at the chart, we quickly see a few degrees shift out of that ideal green zone does to germination rates, especially for peppers. You're looking at added weeks and in some case a month or more to germination time. And if we stray too far to the right, you get into the red zone and hey, you've cooked your seeds, it's lunchtime. So, and then if you stray too far to the left, you're in the blue zone, and instead of growing seeds, you've got an ideal seed storage temperature. But we want to grow seeds. So if any one of you have ever planted a snow pea and waited for this, like put it in the soil in that cold March time, and you've waited for it to come up and it's taken a month, well, now you know the soil was just waiting, the seed was waiting for the soil to warm up, just 9 to 18 degrees. Ever wondered why you plant onion sets instead of onion seeds in early spring? And why it would take so long for them to mature? Well, one look at the chart and you see you're looking at 4.5 months for that seed to germinate at a freezing soil temperature versus putting it on a heat mat, and it's just 4 days. This is why I like starting seeds. 4.5 months versus 4 seeds, 4 days. Yeah, that's why I start seeds. So back to Teresa.
Oh, I'm going to talk about lighting a little bit. All the factors we consider in our environment: lighting, temperature, water. Lighting, in my opinion, it's certainly one of the most important things for growing strong plants and getting seeds going, but it can often be the most difficult thing to provide them with. Remember, plants create their own food through photosynthesis. They need light to do that. Nutrients in your soil, think of that as vitamins and minerals, but light allows your plant to create its own food and feed itself. So if it isn't getting enough light, your plants are going to get leggy and spindly. They might be stunted, but they're going to reach towards that light because your plant's hungry. It wants light. So where's the light? They're going to move more towards it. So that's how we get sometimes weak, spindly, leggy plants. If you have grow lights, be sure to place those lights within just a couple of inches of your seedlings. Get them real close. If you are unable to adjust the height of your lights, use a block of wood or something to lift up the tray of plants to get them really, really close to that light. They might even be touching. Don't worry about that. That's fine too. You might have to lower it as the plants grow tall, but grow lights, that plants are going to want to be really close to those lights. If you are using light through your windows, find the sunniest or brightest windows in your home and place those plants as close to those windows as possible. And then you're going to want to rotate those plants every few days. That's going to help plants grow more upright, and then it allows for all sides of your plants to get the light they need. If you are lucky and you have a temperature controlled greenhouse, so long as it isn't in the deep shade, your plants, they're probably going to get the light they need without too much effort. But temperature control is going to be really important for that greenhouse. Right now, greenhouses get really chilly unless it's a sunny day. But then when the sun goes down, it's too cold at night without that greenhouse effect going on. As we move into spring, we have the opposite effect. The greenhouse can get way too hot and you end up cooking your plants. So temperature controlled greenhouses, fantastic for lighting needs. Unfortunately, we have to kind of baby our plants a little bit, make sure that if want it temperature controlled, or make sure it doesn't get too hot. A trick I've used for plants that helps a little bit if you don't have those optimal conditions, if it is a dry and non-windy day, it's not raining, the sun isn't blaring, it's not 80 degrees out, got temperatures are a little warmer, but not too hot. Go ahead and place your seedlings outside for a couple of hours each day. They get more sunlight and it helps them feed themselves. But again, you just want to make sure it's not a rainy or a windy day because your seedlings are going to be too sensitive to those harsher conditions until they're stronger. And I know hardening off our plants is going to be a really important thing, but that's done so many weeks from now that we're not going to talk about that today, but we are available. Me and Stephanie, we are both available to help you talk about the needs and what to do when we get to those points. Stephanie, back to you.
Yeah, and here we have what to help you succeed. Scratch out soil. We don't have soil. You're on your own with that one. Sorry, I left that in. We have pots, plastic pots. 3 and 4 inch pots. We may be able to scrounge up a few growing trays. And then as Teresa said, me and her are available via text and email to answer your growing questions that you may be experiencing in your microclimate. Here as we get almost to the end, we have a couple questions about your growing setup that will help us when you come to us with your questions. Do you have a heat mat? Do you have a heated greenhouse? And do you have grow lights? So here we are. Now it's your turn. We have talked and talked and talked. What questions do you have for us? And in the chat, please, you can direct them just straight to the chat. You can send them direct to me. Answer our 3 questions. So what questions do you have for us?
Is it okay to speak also, or do you just want in chat?
Of course.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you may speak. That would be great.
I have a green light, but a grow light, but it doesn't cover up nearly the whole tray of plants. Do I need like 2 or 3 of them?
It is better to cover all the plants. The ones in the center obviously will get the most light if you want to like rotate them around or put it in a window so that the ones that aren't directly under the light and then kind of slide it back and forth kind of thing, that can help.
And I know I mentioned
to confirm, we do not have soil. I did not update that slide. So we do not have soil. Sorry.
Hope talking about your lighting situation a little bit. I know I said get it really, really close. If you're unable to get more lights, raise that light up maybe just a little bit so it does cast to the farther corners. But I do agree with Stephanie, rotate those plants around so that they're all able to spend some time in the middle of the grow light to get the rays at once. And yes, put it by the window as well. I do the same thing with mine. I actually start pepper seeds inside and then move them to a greenhouse later, but I put them in a south facing window with grow lights and I'm rotating things around.
And there are questions in the chat.
Yeah, I'm looking for those. So hang on. Let's see. People
Does anybody have any concerns or want input on, like Hope wanted a little bit of input on her conditions? Anybody have questions pertaining specifically to what you might want help on or input for?
Yeah, I just mostly in the chat, people are, I confirmed we don't have soil for you. Sorry. And mostly people are saying whether they have heat mats, grow lights, or have a greenhouse. And I see a couple people have an unheated greenhouse. That's great too. So yeah.
Stephanie,
Yes.
I don't know whether to put this in, but it seems like it might as well. I was out at the PCC this morning after you were there and was delivering some stuff, but I had a short chat with Karen there. And what I contributed yesterday to the questions about soil was that, gee, we didn't have any, and there wasn't, so far as I was aware, budget. But I did ask her about if people really wanted to use some of the potting soil that's there, that if you guys want to concur that that was a possibility for just the starting, because it wouldn't be very much soil. I don't know that anybody would want to do that, but that's if
what did Karen say about that? I mean, because we're starting 1,000 seedlings, so
yeah.
that's
No, she was saying they could share a little, like maybe 5 flats, and so I'm raising if it's going to be too hard for somebody to grow because they can't provide the soil
okay.
themselves.
So if you're having a serious hardship about soil, then you can reach out to me via email directly. I'm the one that's been emailing and bugging everyone. So I'm the person in charge of growers. So I'm the one that's been emailing you. So if soil is a hardship for you, then reach out to me and we can talk about that. Let's see, someone.
I'm going to touch real quick on unheated greenhouses. So I've been there. It wasn't until about 5 years that I had a heated greenhouse. All the years before then, I was growing starts in my home and then figuring out what to do outside. Sometimes I used a cold frame, but an unheated greenhouse. It's a great tool to use, even if it's unheated. When you have started your seedlings, you're probably going to leave them in your house. Use lights if you have them. Use those south-facing windows, bright lights if you can, and rotate them around. When we have a warm, sunny day, utilize that greenhouse and take those trays of plants and put them in your greenhouse, because it probably will be warm enough when the sun is out. And then as our temperatures get warmer, you'll be able to consistently use your greenhouse. But when the greenhouse, greenhouse is cold, you've got to bring those plants back inside. When we're hardening off the plants, then that presents a whole nother, it's actually advantageous to have an unheated greenhouse when we're hardening them off, because we're in that in-between phase. But definitely utilize it on sunny days. Just remember to bring those plants back inside.
Well, and when we're talking about greenhouses, it all depends on how big yours is. Mine is tiny. It's like 6 feet by 4 feet by 7 feet high.
But it's still, you still experience the greenhouse effect when the sun's out, right?
When the sun's out.
Yes, that's what I was talking about.
The thing is, it heats up super fast. I only have one automated window up top, and I had to get another one from the other side. But when the sun's out, it can heat up to 90 degrees, like in less than an hour. So I actually go out and check on it. But yeah. Yep. So yeah. I see a couple people
when you're not dealing with temperature.
Steve and Dan. Sorry, do either of you have a question?
I have a question regarding the greenhouse temperature. At what temperature would you start pulling them back in, Teresa?
That is a great question. If it drops below, once you get down to that 60, I'm assuming we're talking about the seeds have germinated and you've got seedlings with more than one set of true leaves. Once it hits 60 degrees, you might want to bring them back in because it starts to get a little bit cooler. But the older the plant gets, so when we move into like April and May, your plant's a little bit older and you might be able to leave it in there to 50 degrees or so. So it all depends on the age and the strength of that plant. But I leave my greenhouse heated at 65. So it's always a minimum of 65. This is just my, the temperatures I use. 65 degrees is where I set my thermostat. Again, I don't start pepper seeds in my greenhouse. And later in the season, I turn my heater off because my plants are older and they're stronger. And then they're starting to go through that hardening off phase when I turn my heater off. So, but again, that's probably not till April, May. It's really slow to start. And then the farther you get into spring and you get those hot days, and then boom, everything kind of explodes all at once. So you might have really small plants and they're not going anywhere. And then 2 weeks in a wonderful environment and your tomato plants are huge. So we experienced this last year. We babied some plants that were struggling a little bit. And once they got into a nice environment, they took off. But you were asking about when to bring them in. All depends on the age. When they're really tiny, I'd say 65 degrees, 60, and then expand that as they get older and stronger.
Thanks.
Of course.
Does anyone else have a question? Is there some, let's see, who is in charge of seed distribution? Is that Dan? Or is that someone else?
I know that we are going to be distributing a bunch of seeds, I believe, at the event on the 15th.
Yep.
So anybody who goes there, you're going to be able to pick up your seed packets there. If you have chosen to grow habanero peppers, we're going to get those to you ASAP.
Right.
Because they take a long time.
Hey, Teresa, I had a question. So if the habanero takes a long time, does the Thai also take as long?
No, it does not. The Thai pepper actually just, I don't have the packet anymore. The Thai peppers, can you go back to the second grid?
Yeah,
Stephanie?
I have to.
Feb 21st is what it said.
So the habanero pepper takes 90 to 100 days after you've put that baby in the ground. So it's a long time. So the more mature plant we can get to that we can distribute, the more success people are going to have getting ripe fruit off of that plant. Let's see here. The Thai pepper, did we put days to harvest? It's 75 to 85, but it's yeah, the other slide, Stephanie.
Okay.
Yeah, 75 to 85 for the Thai pepper, but it doesn't take nearly as long for the fruit to ripen on a Thai pepper. Okay. Habaneros type peppers, one of the biggest complaints is I had 100 peppers on my one plant and they were pale yellow when the first frost hit.
Yeah. So it just takes a long time.
Yep. I've grown 3 different types of habanero style peppers. What's really great about them is their compact size growing in a pot. It's really great, but it does take a long time for the fruit to mature.
Yeah, by the way, you can eat those pale yellow peppers. They're still eat.
That is true. Peppers can be consumed in any phase, from green all the way to bright red or purple or whatever color they're going to be in the end. It just impacts flavor or sweetness or heat, that sort of thing. But yes, you are correct.
Looks like Leslie has a question.
I have to leave.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Happy
That's okay.
Daniela is asking if trays and pots will be available for pickup at the event on the 15th.
We could probably do that. Oops, sorry. Let me shrink this.
I can bring what I have that day.
You can bring what you have. Are you going to be there, Teresa?
Yes.
Okay. You said you might have some trays.
What might be helpful is if for anyone who would like to get some pots, trays, any sort of supplies, I think that might be all we're offering. If you could send us an email and make sure we know that you are going to need those things, then we can collaborate and try and make sure we have them to you when you need them. And the 15th could be a convenient time.
Yeah. If you need those things, please send me an email and we will bring what we can bring to the 15th event. That's a Saturday, right? Yes, that is a Saturday.
You want to know who doesn't want any?
Nah, just let us know. I mean, I don't necessarily.
Yeah, no, if you want some and about how many you want, we'll bring what we've got to that event. So
yep.
Yes.
And remember, in general, Stephanie Iron, we are a resource to you. So if you have a question at any time, do not hesitate to text us, email us, ping us so that we can help you with whatever you have a question about, and no question is stupid. I'm just putting that out there.
I will send our cell phone information. Please don't call, text us. Because if your phone number isn't one that I recognize, I will not pick it up because I have been spammed out the Yahoo recently. So please text me. I will respond to text.
This is Hope. I understand. I think I read someplace that we only want to use square pots, not round ones for the 4-inch pots.
That would be preferred, but we are
I
not
use round.
round.
I use round, so it all depends on your setup. What's
Teresa
important
uses
is
round. Her trays are round trays. I've seen them.
I
She
have
has a
sets.
system.
Yep. So think about whatever tray you are using. Is it going to fit square pots in there real nice, or is it going to fit round pots in there real nice? I use round, but I also, when I bring those trays of plants to be delivered, they're in their holders, so they're not tipping over and falling all over the place. They're nice and snug. So lots of variables, and that's one of them. But few people are going to have that tray that holds those wonderfully perfect round. I mean, usually it's square. So
here's a question comment from sort of left field. Years ago, I used to see people at farmers market down in California who would sell tomato plants in the solo red beer mugs, plastic beer mugs. I don't know if you have any thought on that, but they do. I guess they're relatively inexpensive and poke a couple of holes in the bottom. They allow for pretty deep roots.
there are pros and cons.
Red cups.
Yep. It's a big thing, Stephanie. People grow seedlings and plants in solo cups. For this, I would ask that people not use solo cups because they are very prone to tipping over. So I might use round pots, but they don't have the same, like solo cups are larger. They're a beer cup. They're a disposable beer cup. They're larger up on the top and they're smaller down. They taper, so they tip really easily. I recommend not using those. If you're going to use solo cups, reach out to me. I'll provide you with pots. I can provide you with square pots, round pots. We'll make sure you have what you need so you don't have to use solo cups. That's my input.
Okay, I won't use solo cups.
I know it is a thing that a lot of people do.
Good question, though.
I mean, here's the other thing is your nursery supplies like pots, they are made of plastics. They're manufactured to grow plants. And they also are typically a darker color. A solo red cup is, there's just a lot of unknowns. What is it made out of? Okay, you put beverage in it, so it's probably okay since people are drinking out of them. But they're just, I would advise against it. I'll just stop talking.
Yeah. So Dan, we have a question. How are the seeds being distributed this year? Besides the member social event, what are the other options?
Yeah, so I'm not absolutely sure about that. I think that Leslie is heading that up because she has all the seeds now.
Can we get back to you with that on that right as soon as we can?
Yeah, so Amy is asking this. We'll have to get back to you on that.
And so
I
last
will
year
send that out as part of the email.
Last year we reached out to everybody and worked out a way to get them seeds.
Yeah.
And so it took multiple of us to get all the seeds out. So let us kind of put together.
Yeah, and we just changed how many of each kind of seed we're doing. So I have to redistributing that's not a sentence. I have to redistribute what seeds people are growing who said I'll grow whatever. Because we are now growing a lot more jalapenos than some of the spicier kinds of seeds. So if you said I'll grow whatever you need, you might be growing a jalapeno instead of a habanero. So, and we just changed that this morning. So now I need to figure it out. So that's why if you said I'll grow whatever, you haven't been told yet what you're growing.
It's the pepper seeds that we need to get out as quick as possible.
Right. So after this meeting, I'm going to figure that out.
Okay. And I can help get them to people, Stephanie, depending on what you're needing and where they are. And I'll definitely take care of getting them out to anybody at the Learning Garden.
Okay.
Which isn't a lot.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Amy, we're going to figure out really soon.
Yeah, you know, I would make one more comment about, you know, Teresa said, and Stephanie, reach out to them. So if you're new to this, especially, and you don't know much about hardening off plants, go ahead and reach out to them because they're experts at it. And it is a little tricky on how you want to do that, what hours you want to put it out, how many hours, etc., how you continue to increase the amount of time it's outside. So just go ahead and reach out to them. They'll be happy to give you some more information.
Yeah.
It can certainly be a little time consuming because you got to baby them a little bit. You can't just put them out for 8 hours and come back after you come home from wherever you were at. You kind of have to be, you got to have to monitor a little bit so they don't end up melting or getting burnt or busted because a gust of wind came through. So I know that's many weeks away, 2 months away, but
yeah. But I mean, it's part of why I garden, because it's like, I mean, I call them my plant babies. Now that my kids are grown, I call them my plant babies. So yeah. Oh yes, you can check, Teresa, yes. So if you're looking for pots, you can check the pot recycling bin at 70s parking lot. Also, when Fred Meyer does their fuchsia sale, a lot of times they will have pots. Other people are getting wise to this, so sometimes someone will have already come in and say, I'm taking all the pots. When people like they come at the fuchsia sale and they say, I'm going to take all the used pots, because people come and they get free soil and they'll buy plants and they'll put the plants in their pot and they just toss all the pots that those plants were in to the side. And a lot of times you can say, I'll take all these pots that those plants were in.
just make sure you sterilize them.
Yes. So sterilizing, clean them. Then you dunk them in a 10%
Bleach water. Yeah.
Bleach water. You don't have to dunk them very long. Make sure you wear gloves.
And you don't need to scrub them or anything like that. Just make sure loose stuff is off of them and then get them all nice and sterilized.
Then you're good, because the soil, it'll be sanitized. It's good.
Soil organisms, most of them are good for our mature plants, not our seedlings.
Yeah, not the babies. So yeah, it's a fairly easy process. So yeah, it's good. Any other questions?
That was fast.
What?
That was fast. You covered a lot.
Yeah, we did. I timed my part and I'm like, well, if Teresa takes 5 minutes a slide, we're good. Because I was at like 8 minutes. So yeah.
Other little tips, since we have a little bit of time. Tomato plants, pepper plants don't always do this. Some do, most don't. Tomato plants, that main stem will grow adventitious roots. So a trick that I do, because I don't have time to up pot, I will actually only fill each pot about 2/3 full. Therefore, after the plant is grown quite a bit and it's a little bit bigger and it's several inches above the top of the pot, I top that pot off with fresh new potting soil. Anything that is buried on that tomato plant is going to grow adventitious roots. Makes that a stronger, healthier, more robust plant. So that is just a tip that I'll share with everyone. I highly recommend it.
And when I plant my tomato seeds, some people plant them deep. I actually plant them on their sides. So they're trying to see. No, I need to move this way. Sorry, I'm between two screens. So I plant them kind of on their side at an angle, because mine is on a drip line. So I plant it along the drip line so that the pot's down here and the plant's up here coming out of the soil. I trim off all the leaves. So it will grow roots all along this thing. So it'll have a long root line.
More
Can't
surface
really
area
do that trick for peppers, at least not most of them.
Right.
I see that, Lisa, that question, because it doesn't do the same thing along its stem. It's like wearing your pants up to your armpits. It doesn't work.
That is correct. There are some
Yeah.
pepper plants that will, but it's only to a certain node. I don't even know if node is actually the right term on the plant, but it's only
Yeah.
some pepper plants that do that. I plant my tomatoes the same way Stephanie does. The more surface area there is of roots, that's more water, oxygen, and nutrients to your plant. So people ask me, how is your plant that big? And well, its root system stretches about 12 to 18 inches. And they're like, seriously, that whole space? I'm like, yes. And that is because I planted it on its side. It takes less than 48 hours so I plant mine 3/4 deep, unless it's a determinate. So not these. Actually, we're probably giving advice here for plants that are a little bit different. But for indeterminate tomatoes, 3/4 deep on its side, takes less than 48 hours, and the plant is already upright and growing vertical again.
Yep.
Determinate plants, it's still okay to bury some of the stem. You just wouldn't want to do 3/4 of the plant like you would on an indeterminate.
Yeah. And soil temperature has a lot more to do with when you plant your plants than the date on the calendar. So like last year when it was really cold for really late, if you planted your peppers, they probably were very unhappy.
And it doesn't mean they won't eventually take off and be successful, but they might be stunted for a while. It might take more time for them to take off and be big and robust. Tomatoes, once they get going, they're like rocket ships, but peppers, man, they're a little more sensitive.
Yes. Okay, any other questions? Okay, I will make note of everybody who commented about their growing system. So I'm going to be here for a while because I have to add this. I am going to stop sharing my screen unless anybody wants to see any slide previous.
And I will
That we-
stop the recording now.
Yes.
Stephanie, if you use the 3 buttons next to the top of the chat, you can